So we're finally here. Secret Wars quite literally starts on Saturday. Issue number 0 comes out on Free Comic Book Day, so of course those of you guys who want to, run to your local comic book store and grab this comic to get you started. But what we're going to do in this video and the subsequent videos leading up to Saturday is we're going to go over the events leading up to Secret Wars. We're going to go over Time Runs Out. Now, the first part of this video is largely going to be for people who are looking for a refresher of sorts, or for the people who just don't really know what's going on, in order to give you guys a solid foundation leading into Secret Wars. And so, in 2013, Jonathan Hickman launched New Avengers with Volume 3, and what he did is he introduced the Incursions. Now, when issue number 1 of the New Avengers, what happens is Black Panther sees an Earth in the sky of the main Marvel Earth, which of course, as we referred to in various videos, is referred to as Earth 616. Now, immediately after seeing this, he's met with the hostile actions of a woman named Black Swan and her henchmen. And so the alternate Earth is destroyed, and Black Swan, along with the device that she used to destroy that Earth, are taken into custody in Wakanda by Black Panther, and Black Panther calls the Illuminati back together again. Now, following this, Black Swan explains to Reed Richards and the Illuminati the nature of the Incursions. And what she tells us is that while the multiverse came into existence at some previous point in time, it'll also end at some future point in time, or at least it's supposed to. But what's happened is that the time it would normally take for the multiverse to come to an end has sped up. And so the whole reason why this had happened was because an individual or a being named Raboom Alal was born or came into existence on an alternate Earth, and his introduction to that Earth resulted in the destruction of that alternate Earth as well as its reality. And so what this did is it created a void whereby alternate Earths, or the two Earths beside it, began to collide into one another, and it started a ripple effect where all these different Earths would begin to crash into one another, and when they did, that it would destroy the realities. And this is the very definition of what an incursion is. Now, in the event of an incursion, an 8-hour window is opened. Now, during this 8-hour time frame, one of the Earths has to be destroyed, or they'll smash into each other, and both realities will be destroyed. However, if one of the Earths is destroyed, then the realities will just pass through each other, and no one will be harmed. And so with this knowledge, what we find is that Steve Rogers suggests using the Infinity Gauntlet during the next incursion in order to push the approaching Earth back into its own place. And what this would do is basically set a standard by which they could use the Infinity Gauntlet over and over again if it's successful each time there is an incursion. But what happens is that when the Illuminati track down all of the Infinity Gems and they assemble the Infinity Gauntlet, when the next incursion takes place, Steve Rogers tries to push the alternate Earth back into its reality using push the alternate reality back into its place using the Infinity Gauntlet. And initially it's successful, but ultimately this results in the Infinity Gems exploding, or shattering, with the exception of the Time Gem, which simply just vanishes. Now, in the aftermath of this, the Illuminati start discussing using the world-destroying device that was confiscated from Black Swan as a way to end the incursions, or at least it's a possibility, as well as devising their own methods of bringing the incursions to an end, own weapons and different things like that. Now, Steve Rogers initially refuses to go along with this, and so what happens is his mind is wiped of both the Incursions event as well as the reformation of the Illuminati by Doctor Strange. And so this was the reason why during the Original Sin event, Captain America, or Steve Rogers, got all these memories back, and then as a result of regaining these memories, he basically began to confront Tony Stark, which again led us into the video of Captain America traveling through time. Now, following the next several issues after this, the recollection of the Incursions event and the Illuminati reforming at the hands of Steve Rogers, what we do is we pick up with the Infinity event. And what happens is the Illuminati discover what are called the Black Priests. Now, the Black Priests are basically mystics, and what they do is they use what's referred to as words of power. But all these words of power really do is allow them to combine their energy into a single source and then destroy the planet that they're currently on. And so when they're seen, or when they're witnessed by the Illuminati, the belief is that the Black Priests are basically servants of Raboom Alal, and that them destroying these various alternate Earths is basically helping to speed up the destruction of the multiverse. Now, all of his intentions and all of the intentions of the Illuminati basically come to a head in issue number 21 when Namor the Submariner basically destroys an occupied Earth, at which point Namor the Submariner is banished from the Illuminati, and the remaining members begin to try to find their own personal ways of bringing an end to the Incursions. Now, while all this is taking place in New Avengers, in the actual Avengers series proper, which of course, again, Jonathan Hickman's writing this as well, we basically discover everything that we had talked about in my Hyperion, Starbrand, and Nightmask videos. And so if you're interested in learning more about those individual characters, and I would highly suggest you check those videos out. But what ends up happening here is that, again, once Steve Rogers regains his memories with regards to the Incursions event as well as the Illuminati reforming, what happens is he simply just brands the Illuminati as traitors. And so this basically initiates the Time Runs Out event. This is how we begin to get into the entire Time Runs Out series. Now, getting to Time Runs Out proper, what we do here is we pick up 8 months after the events of the Incursions. Now, for those of you guys who are wondering what takes place during this 8-month period, this is basically the solo runs of everybody. During these 8 months, Thor loses the ability to wield his hammer and the female version of Thor appears. During these 8 months, Steve Rogers loses his super soldier serum and in turn passes the mantle of Captain America onto Falcon. During these 8 months, the Axis event happens. This is basically how all these things begin to come into play. And so it was just a way for Marvel to wrap up everything with regards to the solo series in this 8-month window and then jump into Time Runs Out. Now, what we find here during this 8-month period, or I guess after this 8-month period, following Namor the Submariner being removed from the Illuminati, was that he started his own Cabal, which was composed of Thanos among others. But the problem is that while the Cabal was brought together for the purpose of destroying alternate Earths that would collide with Earth 616, the Cabal began to grow out of control. And so instead of basically going through and destroying the alternate Earths as they appear as part of the Incursions, the Cabal would go through, they would torture people, different versions of the X-Men and the Avengers on these alternate Earths, and then they'd kill them, and then they would basically destroy that Earth. They basically began to relish in the idea of raising worlds. And so in an effort to stop the Cabal, Namor the Submariner actually travels to meet Doctor Doom to basically enlist his aid. Now, Doctor Doom basically turns down Namor the Submariner here under the auspices that Namor the Submariner should have come to see him first, but instead he didn't. And as a result, he's basically asking Doctor Doom to bail him out. But what we find here is that Doctor Doom actually has a plan of his own, which is the reason why he had turned down Namor the Submariner. That what had happened was during a previous incursion on the planet Earth with regards to the Earth 616 and an alternate reality, that Doctor Doom had captured a piece of this alternate Earth and had used it to basically map the entire Marvel multiverse in order to basically try to find a way to locate the origin source or the origin point of the Incursions. And with the help of Molecule Man, what his intention is to basically travel to this origin point and stop the Incursions in their entirety, or else figure out what caused the Incursions and gain that power for himself. Now, in addition to this, what we also find is that with the world being aware of the Incursions, with with Steve Rogers branding the Illuminati traitors, what he does is he places the Avengers under the control of S.H.I.E.L.D. in order to use S.H.I.E.L.D.'s resources to track down and capture the Illuminati. But basically, he's been almost completely unsuccessful so far. The Illuminati have evaded him at every turn. In addition to this, various members of the Avengers have left the team for several reasons. The first reason is because some of them just don't like hunting down their own superheroes, because for them it feels like a very similar return to the Civil War event, except this time it's Steve Rogers leading the hunt for superheroes as opposed to Iron Man. But the other reason is because a lot of them feel like Steve Rogers has basically lost sight of what's going on, because again, the Incursions are still taking place. And so in response to Steve Rogers trying to hunt down the Illuminati and ignoring the Incursions event, what ends up happening is that former X-Man Sunspot starts the Multiversal Avengers. And the purpose of the Multiversal Avengers, which is composed of the Avengers who had defected from Steve Rogers, is to basically go through the entire multiversal landscape and try to find a way to stop the Incursions. But the other half of their equation is to try to find this middle ground, try to find a way to bring a truce between Steve Rogers' Avengers, at least what's left, and the Illuminati in order for the groups to work together and try to keep the Incursions from happening. With that being said, That's part one. That's what happens in the events leading to Time Runs Out, or I guess it's part of Time Runs Out. And so in the next video, we'll focus on what happens next. And what we're going to find is that things are going to move relatively fast, but things are going to become infinitely more interesting because it gets wild, especially when we get into the battle with the Beyonders, which is a total calamity for the superheroes. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
There is so much we can learn in the universe.